Hey y'all, today we're dehydrating frozen vegetables. Okay, so I wanted to do another dehydrator video. We did the broccoli last week, I think, or the week before. And I just wanted to show y'all how easy it is to do frozen vegetables. Now, you see me, all the little pieces and parts on my dehydrator. I've been dehydrating all day. So I just, I'm not going to wash in between if I'm just doing vegetables and stuff. So what I'm using this first round is just a bag of mixed vegetables. These are the ones that are like, I think they're like 10 ounces. Maybe 12 ounces, and they're like 98 cents at Walmart. Okay, that's the bags that I'm using. You can use whatever you want to. You can dehydrate whatever you want to. But if y'all have been hanging around here for a while, you know we've been doing a lot of homemade shelf-stable things. And so I wanted to do some vegetables. I wanted to show y'all how to do the vegetables because coming up at some point this year, I don't know if we'll do it now or we'll do it in the fall, but we're going to do it at some point. We're going to be doing shelf-stable soups. And so I wanted to go ahead and show y'all how we're going to do the vegetables to put in those to make them shelf-stable, right? Because the more we can get in our jar, the less we have to add to it later. You know what I'm saying? So we are just going to do our vegetables now. And these are going to last you for a couple of years. Seal them up, vacuum seal them, whatever you want to do to them. And they're going to last you a good long time. Just make sure that you get them really, really good and dehydrated. And one of y'all gave me the tip to cover the holes in these trays. Well, a couple of y'all did, with like a little jar lid to keep everything from falling through the middle. And my gosh, that has saved me such a headache. So you just dump them on there. You want to get your vegetables in as not an even layer, but you want to get them in a single layer. You don't want them like piled on top of each other, because then, it's going to take a lot longer to dehydrate. The things underneath may not dehydrate, all those things. So just make sure that you get it in a single layer. And I ended up doing 2 of these bags, and 2 bags fit on my 5 dehydrator trays. And you see that I'm using mesh liners. The holes in just the shelves of my dehydrator are pretty wide. So I wanted to make sure that these would not fall through those big holes. I will link these mesh liners down below for y'all. I got them on Amazon. They were a little bit big for my dehydrator, but I just trimmed them up. That's why they look a little wonky. I trimmed them up to make them fit, and they work perfectly for stuff like this. So what you're going to do with frozen vegetables is start them out at 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Let them go for about an hour at 140. Then you're going to drop the temperature to 125. And I let mine cook all day and all night just to make sure they're good and dry. So once your vegetables are dehydrated, your green beans should just snap in half just like that. They shouldn't be bendy or anything. And then your peas, you should be able to just crumble those up. Now the corn is a little bit harder to crush because it gets pretty much like a rock, but they're super, super easy to dehydrate like this. Once they're done dehydrating, you're just going to put them on some sort of a pan. I use a little piece of parchment paper on a cookie sheet, as you can see. I'm going to dump all of my vegetables on there, and then I'm going to let these cool completely. You do not want these to be warm when you put them in your jar, because then it's going to create some moisture, and you're going to have more of a chance of your stuff molding or going bad, whatever the case is. So like I said, these are super simple to do, and you can use these in so many things. Now, I wouldn't use these, and I saw this on the Purposeful Pantry. I love her dehydrating stuff. That's who I've been watching to get a lot of tips. She says when you rehydrate them, they may not be the best to serve like as a side dish, like a standalone vegetable, but they're perfect in soups or anything that you're going to cook for a while, so they can rehydrate. But that is our little frozen vegetables. We're going to let those cool completely. Once they're completely cooled, I'm going to put those in a jar. This is a 2-cup jar, and it fits these 2 bags of vegetables perfectly. So I'm just going to, this is why I put it on parchment paper, because some of y'all might have been thinking, well, we could just throw it on a cookie sheet. You can, But if you put it on some parchment paper, that's a lot of P's I'm saying, then it's really easy just to kind of gather it up, pick your parchment paper up, and then just dump it into your jar. And then you don't have to get out your funnel or anything like that. But you can use a canning funnel if you need to, you know, to dump whatever you're dumping into your jars. But like I said, this is just a 2-cup jar. And now we have shelf-stable vegetables to put in any kind of shelf-stable recipes we're making or whatever the case is. And they fit in a tiny little jar, y'all. And if your freezer goes out now, you're not going to lose your vegetables. So that's another big plus. So that is our little jar of frozen mixed vegetables. It's so much fun. Love them, love them, love them. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to do is some frozen bell peppers and onions. And you can do fresh, obviously, but when we do the frozen ones, you obviously do not have to blanch those. We talked about that a little bit in the broccoli video. If your vegetables are frozen, they've kind of already been through that process, so you don't have to do anything else to them except dump them out of the bag right onto your dehydrator trays and then dehydrate them, and they're good to go. And these are great for anything that you would use bell peppers and onions in. If you're making fajitas, or you're going to make like a soup that you want to put bell peppers and onions in. Now these are pretty big pieces, which I was fine with. But you can get the little small chopped ones too. Whatever you want to do, whatever works for you is perfectly fine. We're going to cook these or dehydrate these the same way we did the other ones. We're going to start them out at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour, because Darcy says that gives them a little bit of a head start. So we're going to do 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour, and then I just let mine go for the rest of the day, all night long. I just let mine run. And somebody had made a comment too about how much electricity this uses to constantly run your dehydrator. But for me, I have not noticed any difference at all in my electric bill running my dehydrator. So that's, you know, just my experience. I'm not sure how it is where y'all are. I know electricity is different in different countries and areas and stuff, but I haven't noticed a difference. So again, started out at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour, and then drop it to 125 degrees Fahrenheit until they're completely dehydrated. And that's our dehydrated bell peppers and onions. If you have somebody, this was something else I learned on Darcy's channel. If you have somebody who doesn't really care for vegetables, you can grind these up into powder and then just add the powder to your dishes, and then you still get the flavor and the the nutritious part of it, but not necessarily big hunks of whatever vegetable it is. But of course, if you're doing like mixed vegetables and you grind those up, you're still going to taste mixed vegetables. Y'all know what I'm saying. But it's a great idea if that's something that you need to do to, you know, satisfy your picky eaters. And I'll tell you, these are better than for more things than just like putting them in soups and stuff. Last night, I decided to make a pot of red beans and realized I didn't have any onion, but I had dehydrated onions a while back, if y'all remember. I just dumped my dehydrated onions right into my crock pot and let them cook with my red beans, and I had onions that I didn't even have to cut up. And of course, because they cooked all night in the crock pot, they were perfectly cooked and nice and soft and tender, and I had onion in my red beans. So same thing we did with the other. We dumped these out onto a parchment-lined cookie sheet, let them completely cool down, and then we're going to put these right in our jar. This is also a 2-cup jar. And again, if these pieces are too big for you, you know, whatever mix that you bought, then you can break these up. Or like I said, you can grind them up also. There's so many things that you can do with them. So anyway, slide them right down into your jar, and then we're going to put the lid on it. And, you know, I do vacuum seal a lot of my jars. I don't always say that. But if it's something that I'm not going to use a lot of and not use very quickly, I do usually vacuum seal my jars. But otherwise, I don't worry about it. And these are going to be good for a couple years whenever you need bell peppers and onions. So the last thing that we're going to do in this video is potatoes. So this is a big 2-pound bag of the little chunked hash, the little chunky hash browns. And I use this entire 2-pound bag. It did fit on my 5 dehydrator trays, just to give you reference as to how much this is going to make. And we're going to do the same thing with this one as we did with the others. If you are using frozen vegetables, and in my opinion, especially anything potato, they stick together a lot. So just kind of break the pieces apart so you have a single layer of potatoes and not a huge clump of, 10 little pieces of potato. You know what I mean? Because if it's in a single layer, it's going to dehydrate a lot better for you and a lot quicker, and you don't run the risk of everything on the top dehydrating, but then the bottom of it is wet because it was touching something that didn't dehydrate. Y'all know what I'm saying. So anyway, and just FYI, coming up, we are going to do real potatoes several different ways in the dehydrator. I know dehydrating is not probably the most popular thing on my channel, but I'm just trying to give y'all options of other ways that you can make things shelf stable. You know what I mean? It's not a complete meal when we do it like this, but these are going to be great ingredients to put into other meals when we're making, like a hamburger helper, or, a soup or something like that, some sort of a meal in a jar. So these are going to make your life a lot easier. And if you go ahead and prep them now, then whenever we get around to starting those videos of all the other meals that we're making, then you will have all your ingredients prepped and ready to go. So that's why I'm doing a lot of dehydrating, right here recently. So anyway, that's just my explanation. I'm just explaining to y'all. So anyway, we're going to do this again the same way that we did the other two. We're going to start these. I was just showing y'all that I did use the entire 2-pound bag. So we're going to start these at 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 1 hour. Then we're going to drop the temp down to 125 degrees Fahrenheit, and we're going to let those cook. I let mine cook. Well, when I say all night and all day, what I normally do is I do my dehydrating after work. So say 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, whatever time you get off of work. Put your stuff in your dehydrator, let it cook the rest of the evening, and then overnight. And I find that usually gives enough time for them to fully dehydrate. Now, your dehydrator may be different than mine. It may take yours a little longer. And as you can see with these potatoes, you have some that are a little bit different colored, like some of them are whiter, some of them are more yellow. That's just the way they are. It was that way before we started dehydrating. So don't think that, well, the white ones must be done, but those yellow ones look like they still have moisture. That's not the case. But feel free to check if you feel like some of yours may not be done or whatever. And I am reusing this piece of parchment paper for all of these things that I've dehydrated, because there's no liquid in it. There's no liquid in any of these recipes, so you don't have to worry about the parchment paper getting messed up. And as you can see right there, my potatoes are fully dehydrated. You can just break them apart and just crumble them up. No moisture anywhere. So those are good to go. We're going to let those sit on the counter. I just try to get them in a pretty single layer just so everything cools completely, So we're going to let that sit. And when I say let it sit also, I usually just let it sit on my counter for an hour or so. And that's usually enough time for them to cool down completely. But just make sure yours are cool. If you need to get a bigger cookie sheet because you're doing more, absolutely do that. So these, of course, made quite a bit more than the other two. So this is going into a 32-ounce jar. I think it ended up being a little over 3 cups of potatoes. But again, I just was going through my freezer, and now I go through my freezer, I guess I should say, and I'm like, what can I dehydrate next? I mean, I have really been loving doing this. And even, my son will come through sometimes and he's like, what are all these, what have you been dehydrating? Are you running the dehydrator again? What could you possibly be dehydrating? So, but yeah, I've just really been enjoying it. So yeah, a little over 3 cups is what that ended up making. 32-ounce jar, seal it up, vacuum seal it if you're going to keep it for a long time, and they're good to go. You've got tons now of dehydrated potatoes to use in potato soup or, hash browns, whatever you want to use them for. So again, you can see, like I was saying, like some of them are white, some of them are yellow. That's fine. That's just the color of the potatoes before they ever even went into the dehydrator. So don't worry about that. But yeah, don't forget about our little mixed vegetables. This is enough mixed vegetables to do a couple of pots of soup in this tiny jar. Just FYI, that's not even quite 2 cups of frozen vegetables in that jar, but it makes a lot when you rehydrate them. And then we have this whole bag of onions and bell peppers. So I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. I hope that you're going to dehydrate some of this stuff. And I will catch y'all on the next one. Bye, y'all.